Hello everyone. Welcome all of you for this webinar on IoT. I am Pooja Baraskar. I am an Intel innovator and a Microsoft MVP from Windows Development Science. I am a maker and a blogger. I love to make things and then blog about them so that everyone can make their own version of that. So let us see the agenda of today. The first thing we are going to discuss is Internet of Things, what, why and how. Actually, this is going to be a recap of the last previous webinar, what we have done, and then we are going to see which board to choose and why. Lot of people who are beginner in IoT get confused that which board they have to choose, because there are many IoT boards today available in market. So we are going to discuss on this, and then we are going to see which language we are going to choose for IoT, the language and programming environment for IoT. And then we are going to see the IDs available for IoT. And then we are also going to discuss on the components and tool we should purchase before diving into IoT. And then the last thing, we are going to create our first IoT application. So let's get started. The first thing, IoT, what, why and how. So what is IoT? So according to Wikipedia, Internet of Things is a proposed development of the system in which everyday objects have network connectivity which allows them to send and receive data. So let us make this thing more simple. We are providing things, senses, the ability to feel, to listen, to react, and then we provide the way to communicate so that they can talk with us. So this way the things are called smart. So to make a thing a smart thing or an Internet of Things, we need to provide three things. First, sensors. Second, connectivity. Third, identity. Sensors can be any. It can be a temperature sensor, soil sensor, sound sensor, air quality sensor, pressure sensor, or a sensor that measures the CO2 level in your atmosphere, or a water sensor that can measure water level in your tank. There are many sensors which can you use to provide sensors to your thing. And then we need to provide connectivity. We need to provide them a medium so that the thing can talk with us. Connectivity can be like Bluetooth or internet. We also need to provide a unique identity so that they can uniquely talk with us. So we can uniquely detect our device among the cloud of many devices. Now the next question is what thing we need to get started with IoT. The first thing is a microcontroller. A microcontroller is a small computer on a single integrated circuit containing a processor core, memory and a programmable port. You can think this is a small computer which is going to control your IoT thing. So there are many microcontrollers available in market. Common are Arduino, Intel Edison, Intel Galileo, Arduino Mega, ESP8266. ESP8266 is a small Wi-Fi board which is very cheap, and it is already Wi-Fi inbuilt on it. There are many other like Raspberry Pi, Linkit-1, and Intel recently launched a new module called Intel Joule, which is very powerful board. So let us see what actually IoT is and why do we need IoT. So with IoT we are making our lives smart. We can now monitor things, predict when they break, know when they are being used or not. So let us take an example. My coffee machine will automatically communicate with my alarm. So by the time I wake up, coffee will be ready, as the alarm clock has already sent a command 5 minutes before I wake up. We can also put some sensors in buildings or bridges. So before anything bad happens, buildings will notify us. They can tell us if they need any maintenance or not. So the next thing is which language we can use to program our IoT boards. If you are a developer, so you can use any language. C, C++, Arduino, Node.js, Python, Java, C#, any language you can program. And if you are not a developer, then you can use a visual programming environment. There are many visual programming environment like Wildering, Scratch. I hope you have used Scratch programming. So Wildering is similar to Scratch. So there you can drag and drop and you can write a program for your microcontroller board. Next thing is components and tools required to start with IoT. So the first thing, as we said, you need a microcontroller. A microcontroller is a computing device. it will have a memory, processor, and many ICs on it. So with that, you can control your sensors and output operations. Next thing, you will require sensors. Any type of sensor according to your program. If you are monitoring environment, so you can require air quality sensor or CO2 sensor or temperature sensor or pressure sensor. If you want to monitor moisture level in your soil, so that way you need a moisture sensor. If you want to monitor sound level, noise level in your environment, so this way you require a sound sensor. The same way, there are many available sensors available in market. You can choose according to your project. The next thing you require is cable. You will need a USB cable or a cable suitable to your IoT board, your microcontroller board. Like if you are using an Intel Edison board, then you will need a USB 2.0, USB B type of cable. If you are using an Arduino board, so you will require a different type of cable. So you need a cable from which you can connect your microcontroller board to your IoT device. Computer. And you will require jumper wires. Jumper wires are required to connect sensors to your IoT board. There are a lot of input-output pins in your microcontroller board. So from that you can connect your sensors. Next thing you will require is a breadboard. A breadboard is normally used for prototyping. So you can connect your sensors to breadboard and then breadboard to microcontroller using jumper wires. And then additional you will require resistors, capacitors and other things. And also if you want to test your circuit, you will require LED. So like basically to check, we can use an LED. So these are the things which are required to get started with IoT, just to create a simple IoT project. And as you are growing, you can buy additional components. Most of the times I use and recommend the Groove Starter Kit. The Groove Starter Kit comes with all the components which you will require to get started with IoT, like cables, basic type of sensors, one LCD, one small servo, and some different type of cables. And there will be also a shield, Arduino compatible shield. This Arduino compatible shield will be actually you can stack it to your Arduino compatible board like Intel Edison or Galileo or Linkit One or even Arduino Uno. So these boards are Arduino compatible. So this shield is Arduino compatible. You can stack it to Arduino compatible board and you can directly connect your sensor modules to it. You won't require any extra wiring or anything. So if you are a beginner, this kit is very useful for you. You can buy this kit from any online store for around $80. So next thing we are gonna see is what are the IDs available for programming IoT device. There are many IoT IDs available nowadays. The main and the easiest and simplest one is Arduino ID. The other IDs are Intel XDK IoT Edition, Visual Studio, Eclipse, Velodrine. So if you are programming with Node.js, Intel also has a IDE which is very simple. So with that you can program in Node.js. And if you are a .NET developer and you are familiar with Visual Studio and you want to write code for your Arduino in Visual Studio, you can also do that. There are many plugins available for Arduino which will make you able to write code in Visual Studio. If you are writing code in C# for your Raspberry Pi, then of course you can go for Visual Studio. And if you are writing code in C, you can go for Eclipse. And if you are not familiar with any programming language, then also still you can also program for your IoT board. You can use a drag and drop type of IoT language for Velodrine. So next thing we are gonna see the Velodrine IDE. So you can see this looks similar as a Scratch programming thing where you can drag and drop everything. To know more on this Velodrine, you can go to velodrine.com and search for this. So let us see the Arduino IDE. In Arduino IDE, there are two simple programs. This is the Arduino IDE is basically a stripped down version of C and C++. So actually the code structure you will see is similar to C and C++, but little more easier than that. So you can see there are two basic functions, setup and loop. So these are the two compulsory functions to include in Arduino IDE, but you can write your own function in that. So there are two functions, one is setup and second is loop. The setup function is always starts at the beginning. So this you use to initialize variable and other components, and the loop function, it always runs over again and again forever. So let us see the live view of Arduino IDE. So this is the Arduino IDE. You can download this IDE from Arduino website. So here first thing you need to do is to add your board. Here you go to board manager and you can see the list of board available. From here you need to download your board. Like if you are using Intel Edison board, so you can see and you can go through here and download, install from here. You can see I have already installed the Intel Edison board and the other board from Intel. So you begin from here. The first thing is you have to choose your board. You can see there are many boards already installed in this IDE. Arduino Uno, the common type of board, Arduino Mega, LilyPad. I have also installed ESP board, and here is Edison board. So first let us choose Edison board, or the board for which you are programming. So right now I have Intel Edison board and I am programming with Intel Edison. So you have to choose that from here. So the next thing is you need to choose the port. So right now my board is not connected. As soon as you connect your board, it will show up here. So let me connect my board to the system. My Edison boards runs on Linux. So it will take some time to boot up, like 15 or 20 seconds. And as soon as it boots up, the port will be shown here. Or even you can go to device manager and can check the port number which your board is connected to. You can go to device manager by clicking start, right clicking start, and then device manager. It's taking time to start. So here you can see under the ports tab, you can see to which port your Edison board is connected to. So here we can see Intel Edison virtual COM port is connected to COM4. So now we need to select the COM4 here. Now you can see the COM4 is available. So we have selected COM4. Now the next thing is to write the code. As the IDE starts, you can see that these two functions, setup and loop function. The code we need to start, need to run when the board starts. So we need to write in the setup function, and the code we need to run again and again. We need to write that in loop function. Like if we need to blink a LED again and again by the interval of 1 second, so we will write the code here, and we will initialize the port of that LED in the setup function. So and the one best thing about this IDE is we have many sample example here. So here we have an example code for blink LED, fade LED, and the many other examples are there. There are also code for button and the other things. Also code for analog input and output, and many other communication and the other type of codes. Like here is a code for RTC. There are many code samples available already in Arduino library. So let us select a code for LED blink. Go to example, then basics, then blink. It is already open here. So this is the example code for LED blink. You can see, let me make this things more simple and clean. So you can see there is a function for setup. So here we are initializing the pin mode 7 for output. This is the pin on which we are going to connect our LED. And here is the loop function where we are going to say, first we are going to write this digital pin 7 to high. That means this LED will blink. Then we are taking a delay for 1 second. That means LED will stop. And then again we are turning this LED to low. That means it will turn off. And then after 1 second delay, it will again turn to high. So this loop will run again and again. So that way you can see the LED blinking. So if I run this sketch, first let us see the connection. So let us see the connections. So this is Intel Edison board. Here we can see there are many pins, or you can say ports. So these are input and output pins. So here is a 7 pin. You can see the GPIO number here. Here is a 7 pin which is connected to the plus terminal of our LED. And here the negative terminal is connected to ground. You can see the black wire going. It is connected to ground, and we are using a breadboard to make this connection. We are also using a small resistor around 270 ohm, and then you can see the connections. We are connecting this to pin 7. So our output pin is 7. So let us jump to the code again. So now you can see there are some buttons. There is a right button here, tick button here. So with this button you can compile the code and you can check if there are any errors in this code or not. So let us compile the code. You can see the messages coming here. So right now the sketch is compiling. The program you write in Arduino IDE is called Sketch. So we wrote a sketch to blink the LED. So right now it is compiling. It is taking a little bit of time. So you can see the sketch is compiled. So now you can upload this sketch to board. Here you can see a arrow sign. This button will upload the code to your Edison board or any other board which you are using. So let us click this button. So now this is uploading the code to our Edison. So you can see the message here, done uploading. So as soon as the code is uploaded, you can see the LED blinking. So right now my webcam is not on, but if you write the exact code, you will see your LED blinking in your board. First let us take a walk around this IDE. Here you can see the basic functions, like you can create a new sketch or open a sketch, or you can see the recent sketch here, or here from the example part you can select any example from here. You can see this. Here is a fade example I am going to show you, which will make your LED fade by time. For this you need to connect your LED to PWM pin. You can see here gradually we are reducing the amount of brightness. So this way you can play around many examples in this IDE. There are already many examples and you can also write your code. So this makes it very simple to write code for IoT devices. So let us revise it again. First we need to select the board. For example, if you are writing code for Arduino Uno, you can select it from here. Then we need to select the COM port. If you have many devices connected, then here you can see many COM port visible. So you need to select the right COM port for your device, and then you just need to compile the code and then upload the code. So this way it is very easy to upload a code to your device. Now there is one more IDE that I like, Intel XDK IoT Edition. Let us see that also. There we are going to write the code in Node.js. So this is Intel XDK IoT Edition. You need to download this IDE from Intel website. There is also another version of this IDE called Intel XDK. So there you won't find sample code for IoT. So this is another special edition of that IDE, Intel XDK IoT Edition. So don't get confused between this. You need to download Intel XDK IoT Edition, not Intel XDK. So this is how the IDE starts. From here you can start a new project or open an Intel XDK project. So we are going to start a new project. The same thing, it asks for you need to create what you want to create, like you want to create IoT project or other mobile or web app project. So we are going to create an IoT project. So here you can find many templates for that. So here it is showing many codes for different type of things, different type of IoT sensors. Like if you want to read analog sensor, the data from analog sensor. Analog sensor is actually, you can think it is a variable sensor. Like if you want to get values, if you want to get values that changes from time, like temperature values, you can use the analog read example. And if the values are coming like 0 and 1, so that means that sensor is a digital sensor. You can think this like a button. A button always sends value in 0 and 1, and a temperature sensor sends value which varies between time. So the temperature sensor is an analog sensor and the button is a digital sensor. So if you want to use a digital read example, that means if you want to sense the value of button, like if button is on or off, we can use a digital read example. And if you want to read an analog sensor like temperature or moisture sensor or air quality, which values varies between time, so you can use analog read example. So suppose if we are using a temperature sensor, so we can use this. There are many more code samples available which will help you to get started. So you can see here is an LCD example. Here is a touch notifier. You can use a touch sensor for this. Here is a BLE example. That means Bluetooth low energy, like a beacon. You can use this one for beacon. Many more examples. There is example for line following robot also. For this you need to use IR sensors, fire alarm, and many other examples are there. So let us see the code for analog read. Click on analog read, then continue. Here you have to name this. I am naming this as a temperature sensor. Temperature, that's it. One thing to remember is this: to work with Intel XDK IoT Edition, you need to connect this with internet. Without internet connectivity, this ID won't work. So this is how the IDE starts. From here, first thing first, you need to connect your IoT device. You can see your Edison or the other board which you are using will be available here. So let me click Intel Edison. Now it will ask for password and username. It is showing that my Intel Edison is connected to this IDE. Now here is the sample code. First thing, it is downloading the library called Mira. The next thing, it is asking for the Mira version. So this thing you don't need to worry about. And the next thing we see here, we are initializing the pin, the analog pin which we are using. There are different type of pins on the microcontroller board. Some are digital pin and some are analog pin. So for this example, we are connecting our sensor to analog pin. So the analog sensor always need to be connected to analog port, and digital sensor always need to be connected to digital port. So if you are using a temperature sensor, you need to connect to analog port. So we connected this sensor to analog port A0. You will see this numbering on your IoT device. And the next thing we are doing is, we are taking the input from the analog board. We are reading that. And the next thing, we are just printing the values to console. So let me do this whole setup. To make the connection simple, I am using my group board. Just give me a couple of seconds to make the connections. So as you can see, I am using the Groove Starter Kit. To make the connection simple, And now I'm connecting the temperature sensor to A0 port of my Edison board. So to upload the code, first thing is you need to click on this thing. Here's upload button or arrow pointing toward downward. So let us click this. It is asking to save the project. Now it is downloading the NPM modules. Now you can see the message upload complete. Now let us run this program. So here you can see the value of temperature. Here you can see different values coming. So this is how you can upload a simple example sketch. If you are familiar to Node.js, you can write your own code here. And if you need to connect this to internet, the Intel Edison is already has inbuilt Wi-Fi. You can write the cloud code and you can send your data to cloud. So if you are a beginner and you want to start with IoT, the best and easiest IDE is Arduino IDE. This IDE is very simple. You don't need any prior experience in coding and any language to start with this IDE. This is very simple IDE. It already has only two methods and you just need to initialize your output or input ports in the setup method, and the code you need to run again and again. You can write the code in the loop module, loop function. And if you need any extra code, you can create your own functions, but you need to keep these two functions. You need to write these two functions always for Arduino IDE. So this is the easiest IDE to start. And if you are using a Raspberry Pi, if you are programming with Windows, you can use the Raspberry Pi and code in Visual Studio. So we have seen how we can write our sample application, our first sample application using Arduino IDE and Intel XDK IoT Edition. So any question up to this point? Yes, so I am taking some questions. The first question is, can we use Visual Studio? Yes, we can use Visual Studio. Even you can write the Arduino code in Visual Studio. Arduino code is very simple. It is a stripped down code of C# or sorry C and C++. So you can write that in Visual Studio. And if you want to use C#, so directly you can use the Windows IoT code and you can write code using Visual Studio. The next question is a Sketchbook IDE? No, actually the IDE is Arduino. People often get confused between Arduino is IDE or is Arduino is a board. Actually Arduino is a complete environment. Arduino has their boards, their IDEs and their softwares. So this Arduino IDE is open source IDE. You can see a similar IDEs like Arduino, as it is open source. So you have Arduino Uno board, Arduino Mega board and many other boards nowadays coming from Arduino which has inbuilt Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. So Arduino is also an IDE. So the next question is, how can we connect internet using Arduino? The first thing is you have to see if your board is Wi-Fi capable or not. If your board doesn't, if your board is not Wi-Fi capable, then you have to use additional Wi-Fi module. There's one Wi-Fi module called ESP8266. This Wi-Fi module can be used as a microcontroller. So that means you don't need to use Arduino board for that. That you can use that ESP8266 Wi-Fi module as a standalone board. So that board is pretty cheap. It comes for like $6. For most of this my project, like a small project, I use that board because it has inbuilt Wi-Fi and it is very cheap. There's a new version of ESP8266 launched, which also has a inbuilt Wi-Fi and inbuilt Bluetooth. So that means you can get a Bluetooth and a Wi-Fi microcontroller for only $6. So next question is Raspberry. Sorry, I don't know about this. Actually, nowadays there are many IoT boards are launching. So I guess this is Raspberry Pi. So Raspberry Pi is a microcontroller board which is very powerful, and you can make that as a computer. Like, it has a USB port, HDMI port. It can act as a computer if you program it that way. So for that Raspberry Pi, you can code that actually in C#, and you can use Windows 10 on that board. So that is a really very powerful board. And the next question is, please provide some links to buy IoT kit. So IoT kit, actually you can find many IoT kits on Amazon, or if you are in India, there are few online retailers like Potential Labs, crazypi.com. So you can go through them and search for your best IoT kit or best board. The next question is, it would be helpful for us if you recommend some boards list. So yes, as I said, the choice of board completely depends on the project you want to create with it. So like, if you are creating a big powerful robot, so for that you should go for Raspberry Pi, Intel Edison, Intel Galileo, or the Intel new launched board called Intel Joule. So for that, of course, you need a powerful RAM, powerful processor. So that way you can select your board. And if you are creating a small project just for fun, so you can use the boards like Arduino Uno, or the board I suggest is ESP8266. That is a very cheap and good board. So with Arduino Uno, you need to buy extra Wi-Fi module. But this ESP8266 board has already inbuilt Wi-Fi, and it is very cheap. So if you are starting with IoT, I suggest you to use this ESP board. Then go for some powerful board. So let me write the board name. It is ESP8266 12. Actually, ESP8266 is a board category, and there are many boards from this. So the board mostly I use is 12. ESP8266 is 12. And the ESP8266 is actually little bit hard, not that much, but little bit hard if you are a beginner to work with. So there is another version of this board called Node MCU, which has this chip only. So you can get one Node MCU and start working with. This is a very simple board which has already a Wi-Fi thing. So any more questions? Please let me know if you have any more questions. I will be also writing a blog about all the things that I have shared in this webinar, all the components that you need to buy and what are the use for that components, and we'll share that as a blog soon. The next question is, do we need to learn Azure also? No, the answer is no. You don't need to learn Azure for this. There are many cloud services nowadays which are very easy. The cloud I mostly use is Ubidots. So I will share about that in our next webinar. The Ubidots is very easy to use. You just need to drag and drop to create the cloud components on it. So it is very easy. So you don't need to learn Azure or go for any complicated cloud. If you are just learning, later on maybe you can switch to Azure. The next question is, what board need to be brought for C# developers? So actually, if you are a C# developer, actually I am also a C# developer, but most of the time I program in Node.js and Arduino. because these languages are easy and these languages are easy to work with. And if you need to program only in C Sharp, then you can go for Raspberry Pi 2 or Raspberry Pi 3. So that way you can program for Windows 10 IoT Core in C Sharp. But try for other languages also, like Arduino, which is very easy. What is the cloud name? The next question is, the cloud is UBDots. If you navigate to my website poojabaraskar.com, I already have many blog posts using UBDots, which is very easy. I have already given step-by-step instruction how to create dashboard and the other things on UBDots. It is very easy thing. The next question is Windows 10 is providing any help in building IoT, or we can use with any OS? Yes, Microsoft is providing many great resources to build with IoT. You can go to their website MSDN or Microsoft Virtual Academy. There you can browse through many courses on IoT. So for that you need to go for Raspberry Pi 2 or Raspberry Pi 3 board. So that way you can work and code with C Sharp and program for Windows 10 IoT code. And the next question is, we can use with any OS. Yes, you can use any other OS. Any other OS like Linux and other things are very easy to use. They are not that much difficult as we used to think. They are very easy. So first thing is try learning Arduino. That is very easy, and I feel that everyone should know using this IDE if you are working with IoT. You will find many examples and many libraries compatible to Arduino. So any other question? The job opportunities in IoT is vast. Actually, IoT is not restricted to any domain, any particular domain. Like if you are working in IoT, you can work in healthcare, you can work in automobiles, you can work in any domain. So this is the best thing about IoT, and you can see people are usually moving to smarter things. So this world is world of IoT. So job opportunities is many. So any other question? One thing I wanna share is, if you are a beginner, you need not to have any prior experience in programming or electronics to start with IoT. If you don't know anything about electronics and if you don't know anything about programming, then also you can work with IoT. What you need is just an idea about a smart thing, and you can change your life. And the IDEs I'm telling you, the Arduino thing is very easy, and the Groove starter kit I recommend you is very easy to work with, because with Groove starter kit you need not to make any connection, anything, any wiring, any resistors or anything. It already have a sensor module and a 4-wire 4-cable connector. So that way you just need to plug and write the code. That's it. The next question is, can you please guide us for a sample project? So sample project, actually IoT is all about ideas. So the project let me tell you about my project. The project I created till now are like one is baby monitor. So for this baby monitor project I used a simple sound sensor, which is a microphone. So that will record a noise level of a room. So if baby is crying, it will tell you that baby is crying. It will send a message to your phone. With UBDots I use this. And if the room is silent, if the sound sensor is a stripped down version of Linux called Yocto Linux. So with the power of Linux you can do almost everything. And it also has a SD card slot. So with the SD card you can actually install Windows on that. So your Intel Edison or your Intel Galileo then will run on Windows. Any other question? And if you need any sample projects to start with, then you can go to my website. There are few sample projects like burglar alarm, baby monitor, weather monitor. You can start with that. It also have a step-by-step instruction for cloud connectivity thing. So you will find the complete instructions there. The next question is, will Arduino Uno runs in Windows 7? No. The answer is no. The Arduino Uno is a very small board. I mean very less powerful board. So it won't run on Windows or Linux. So if you are a beginner, I suggest you to start with a simple board. Simple cheap board. Then you can go for a high-end board. Any other question? So I guess there are no questions. Let us wait for a few minutes. Yes, there is one question. Any training video we get online for IoT for C# developers? Yes. If you want to program in C#, you can go to Microsoft Virtual Academy. There you will find a lot of resources for C# and Windows 10 on IoT. And if you want to use C# to code with any other board other than this Windows based board, you can also do that. So let us end the session.